In the last video, we created this very simple robot program where our robot simply goes from one point to a second point and then to a third point that we can preview with the program simulation component. And for that, we use these 3 points that we use to create planes. We then flip the planes to make sure that the robot has the right orientation. And from these planes, we created robot targets and then our robot program. In this video, I will quickly be going over how you can actually send a program to a robot. This will be a multi-part series of videos because there are different ways of sending to a universal robot. We can either upload directly or we can use an FTP upload. If you have a very short robot program, the normal TCP/IP upload that I will be showing in this video will probably be just fine. If you have longer robot programs, you will need to use the FTP upload that I will show in another video. There are different versions of universal robots, and these universal robots have different user interfaces. And so the buttons that you need to press or the options that you need to activate in order to send things might be slightly different. The one that I will be using is an E-series universal robot. This is the way the interface looks. There are also CB series universal robots. So these are the older models, and their interface looks kind of like this. And there's now also a completely new interface for universal robots, which is called Polyscope X. It's currently in an open beta. If you want to try it out, you can try it out, but I will not be going over how you can send to this interface in this video. The Polyscope X interface also allows for even more ways of uploading and interfacing with a robot. So in this video, we will be using the E-series universal robot. If you have a CB series universal robot, I will link a video in the description, which is the old version of this tutorial, where I used a CB series universal robot URSIM. And I show you how you can use that. However, the process is very similar, and so you can also follow along with this tutorial. So in order to send a program to a robot from Grasshopper, we need the remote connection component that we can find under the robots component tab, and there we have a remote connection that also has the UR logo in its as its icon. And here we simply add our robot program that we created with the create program component as our input to the remote connection. The next thing that we need to set is the IP address of the robot. I will also not be going over how you can connect your robot to a network. I'm planning on doing a video, so look out for the description below to see the link to that video. And here we have to set the IP address. On an E-series universal robot, let me quickly grab the robot pendant. We can find the IP address by going in the top right corner. So all the way over here. In the top right corner, sorry, that was not correct. Here and in the About section, we can find our settings, and here we also have an IP address of the robot. Like I said, I will not be going over how you can connect your robot to a network. I will do a separate video on that, but there should be an IP address right there, and this is the one that we need to set in our Grasshopper definition. So going back to Grasshopper, I will simply add my IP address, which is 10.10.10.23 in my case. Make sure that when you are entering the IP address that you don't add, for example, another point, another empty blank space, or a new line to that IP address, because if you do, the connection will not be possible. So make sure that you only have the 4 numbers of your IP address and no extra characters. So if we are connected to the same network as the robot, we can add a button and connect that button to the upload function. However, Depending on your robot will start moving immediately once you add a button to the upload connection or to the upload input on the remote connection and actually activate that button. So make sure that you know exactly which robot, which IP address you are connected to, and what you want the robot to do. And also make sure that there's nobody standing next to the robot, close to the robot, and that you know exactly what is going on with the robot. It's always good practice to make sure that the speed of the robot, which can be set here below, is set quite low when you send something for the first time, just to make sure that whatever you're sending is not does not result in a big fast motion of the robot. Because even though we have a preview in our Grasshopper interface, the preview starts at the first point, and the robot will actually move to that first point at the beginning of the program. So depending on how the robot is positioned, it might create a huge movement to get to that first point, and only then will it follow the trajectory that we can have, that we can see in our preview. So make sure you know what you're connected to. Make sure you know how the robot operates. Make sure that all tools and objects that are in the path of the robot are removed. And never activate or upload something to a robot that you cannot see or that you're not actively sitting next to. This is especially important in universities. You might have multiple robots in your lab. You might have a robot connected to a larger network, so you might be sitting across the room. You might have multiple people that work on something with the robot. Make sure that you never ever send something to a robot that you don't intend the robot to execute immediately. I will show you how we can add some more safeguards later, but in this tutorial, I will only show this very, very simple way of sending short programs to the robot that get executed immediately. So I will add a button as an input to the upload function. And in order to upload, I have to set my robot to the remote setting. So in the robot pendant in the top right up here, I can switch from local to remote control. And now I can hit the upload button after I made sure that the speed is set to a low setting. So in this case, it's 16%, because unfortunately we cannot change this speed once we are in the remote control mode. So make sure you set the speed, and now I can upload. To my robot. And once I hit upload in Grasshopper, you can see the robot starts moving. Now that the robot is moving, I can actually go out of the remote control and go into local control. And now I can change the speed slider again, even though the robot is still moving. And you can see now the robot had approached the first target and now moves through the 3 targets that we have set. I will do this again just to show you. So the only thing I did is add a IP address. I added a button, and in the robot pendant, set it to remote control. You don't need to do this if you have a CB series robot. But on E series robots, you need to set them to remote control. And now I can upload and see the robot move through these 3 points that we have defined. Unfortunately, if you use this way of sending programs to the robot, there's no real option to troubleshoot. There's nothing really that you can. Sometimes you send something to the robot and there's simply no feedback. The robot doesn't move, and there's no good way for you to figure out what happened. What you should be looking at is to go into the log of the robot, no matter if you have an E series robot or a CB series robot, and there you should be seeing a program started entry. You need to activate the info entries, and if this entry is there, then that means that the program has started. So this is the first thing that you should check. The second thing you should check is also if you're actually connected to the same network as the robot. Sometimes, if you're, for example, also connected to a Wi-Fi network, your Wi-Fi network might kind of interfere with your local connection, depending on IP addresses and whatnot. So also disable your Wi-Fi connection if you're having trouble. And also make sure that you don't have a very large robot program. If you want to upload larger programs, then you need to use a different way of uploading that I will show in the following video. All right. This was quite a long video with quite a lot of safety precautions, but I cannot stress this enough because these machines are, of course, not just dangerous, but also expensive and probably not yours. So make sure you know what you're doing. If you're unsure in any way, make sure you have somebody with you that already knows these robots. Make sure that your speed slider is always at a low setting, and make sure that the robot, that you know and see the robot, that you're not that you don't have your back turned to the robot, for example, when you hit the upload button. If you're not uploading to a robot, it's always good practice to simply disactivate or deactivate the upload components. And to also not be connected to the robot via Ethernet or Wi-Fi, to make sure that you can never accidentally upload something that you're not intending to. In the next video, I will show you how we can add a little safety device in our init commands that simply gives us a pop-up on our robot pendant before the program is executed, which makes the entire thing just a bit more safe.